So Bryan Callen has finally addressed and clapped back at Joe Rogan for the infamous video in which he gets called out for having that tough guy act during the podcast. Even though that video was posted more than 7 years ago, it has over 6.4 million views. The engagement is insane, and obviously all of the comments are bashing Bryan Callen. So what I find interesting is, did Bryan Callen really just see the video now, or did he have it in the back of his head and decided to now bring it up? Because if you guys remembered, essentially the video showed Bryan Callen getting completely punked by Joe Rogan and Brendan Schaub during a podcast that they did. Obviously, everybody thought that he got punked, but now Bryan Callen is saying that it was just a bit. He was joking around, and it was, in fact, Joe Rogan's inability to go through with the joke and his inability to be silly that caused that whole narrative to be built. And the cool thing is that we actually have evidence for both sides. So I think you'll find this video very interesting. And with that being said, let's get started.
Yeah, that was when I was joking about what I do to somebody, and Rogan took me seriously. Remember when I said I'll show up at your house and kill you, and I was going through a bit, and he stopped it, and he goes, "That's toxic. Those people, you're toxic."
Was this on not the last one we did?
No, it was a long time ago when I said I was trying to do something. I was bringing it back to you. It happened to me. I got bullied for a full year, and it turned me into a fucking. If somebody tried to bully me, I'll show up at your fucking house and kill you. That's what happens. I get so angry.
I'm not buying that even
when he talks
remotely.
like that. I hate when.
Hey,
That's
bro,
not true.
You fucking bully me.
If I
You know what
you
your
try
problem
bullying me
is,
right
bro?
now,
Problem
Hold
is-
on, let me handle
Here's
this.
Here's your problem. You've talked to too many guys that let you say shit like
agree.
that, and then it becomes like vernacular. It becomes like a part
this
of
is
the
what
way
I
you
do.
talk.
This is what I do. Brian,
make
look
my
at me.
All those
Look at me.
people
Hold on,
that
hold
I
on.
know,
Hold
all
on,
those
he's got
people
something to say.
that when I first met you, all those
Yeah.
people you used to hang around with,
Yeah.
those are all toxic, and they've ruined the way you're allowed to communicate with people.
But do you remember that when I said, you say something, I'll show up at your house, and I was about to say, and I'll you up. Remember, I was
Yeah.
gonna turn, but Joe didn't get it. So Joe goes, you know what, dude? You say that stuff, that's toxic. The people around you, I'm like, hey, dude, what the? I was in the middle of a bit, and you're taking me seriously.
Sometimes Rogan.
Now they play it, and they're like, they straighten up tough guy Bryan Callen. Hey, I was in the middle of a bit, and I got stopped.
Well, because Rogan's one of the comics. He'll be in a silly mood. You know, Rogan gets.
Yeah,
silly.
but sometimes.
Most of the time.
Yeah, he's
not
serious.
silly
It's a
like
heart
we
attack.
are. Like you and I are silly.
Now, here's the thing. Bryan Callen has a very good point and a very good argument by saying that Joe Rogan doesn't get bits and he's not silly like them. Because obviously it is well known, it has been documented, we've talked about this on previous videos, about how Joe Rogan has an insane track record of missing jokes. And the beautiful thing about YouTube is that I don't even have to go that far back to find Joe Rogan doing exactly that. Because on that last episode with Danny Brown, comedian Danny Brown got a comedy lesson from Joe Rogan about how something is not funny because it's not logical. It's insane. Take a look at this clip. Let me know what you think.
Thing that I think is funny to myself, and I'm like, I gotta write that down. And last night it was, I was talking to them about it before the last podcast. Was deviled eggs,
Deviled eggs?
bro. That's the most. I get why they call deviled eggs. Deviled eggs. Now me, I'm a person that love eggs. You gotta get your protein however you can get it. But all right, if we were talking about abortions and this and that, so these niggas are. I'm just saying, it's an egg.
Okay, it's not fertilized.
But they took you, they scrambled you up, then put you back into the mix, then fed you the niggas. It's like the most gruesome shit you can do to anybody is a deviled egg, man. You gonna tell me, bro, if you could take my shell, you take me, all my skin, and then you gonna take all this, throw some mayonnaise and some
But do you know that deviled eggs
Then put
are
me
eggs
back.
that are not fertilized? This is not like a logical premise because those eggs aren't fertilized. They can never become a chicken. A fertilized egg is an egg when the rooster fucks the hen, and then the egg could become a person. Egg is just a piece of protein. It's never going to be a living organism.
Joe, how does this change the situation?
Because you're talking about gruesomely turning
They're
up what it
dead.
means to
It's-
be you.
It's a dead baby.
It's
anywhere
not.
it goes.
No, it's not a dead baby. It's zero potential to be a baby. It's never impregnated. When
hate you.
they lay eggs every day. I have chickens.
So eating deviled eggs,
They're building a chicken coop in my house right now.
eating deviled eggs is not bad.
It's nothing. It's like free protein.
I hate you, man.
Sorry. Sorry, but that's what an egg is.
But can I get my bit?
The bit's not gonna work. It's okay. It's okay. I get what you're going for, and if it really was you were eating babies, it makes sense. But most people know that that's not really what's going on.
All right.
You know what I mean?
I think Danny Brown is a funny guy, and he has a podcast under YMH Studios, Tom Segura's YouTube channel. And he finally did the Joe Rogan Experience and had that insane moment. In both examples, Joe Rogan obviously killed the bit right before it even took off. But with Danny Brown, at least he got called out for it because obviously it's a joke. And here's my last point defending Bryan Callen. After that, we'll move on to why he could possibly be on the wrong. But even on the last episode of The Fighter and the Kid, him and Brendan Schaub did a whole fighting scene, a whole bit.
I know exactly what to do.
Okay.
I don't sit there like fucking.
What are you gonna do?
What am I gonna do? Step behind you, sit you down on your
it.
stupid ass. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. And then
You want to try that and see how it goes?
no problem doing that.
Okay. Stand up. You're gonna let me put you in an actual headlock. Daddy's gonna apply pressure.
Huh?
Huh? Face out?
Yeah.
Because then I'm one
Yeah.
hand. So I'm face out.
Yeah. And now I'm here.
Yeah.
Now I'm here. Now you're in deep shit. Because what I do is I suplex you.
Yep.
I suplex you.
not
Right?
just
You're
hand
hand fighting now.
Now I'm here.
Don't hand
Now
fight.
you're fucked.
Pop, pop, pop. Because that's what I do. That.
Now take your girl and your kids.
What?
Busy.
There it is again.
Hand drag.
This is a problem for you. This is a 2-on-1 here. That's a guys. That's a Russian 2-on-1. Because I'm gonna do this. Bop, and then bop, and then bop.
Oh,
Hey.
See that? See that?
So that is just a clear example of his tough guy act that you can use as evidence that it was actually a joke. However, if we look at it from Joe Rogan's perspective, there is an argument that Bryan Callen does have that tough guy act, and it is very personal to him. And he borderline believes it because a few years ago, him and Brendan Schaub actually got into it on the podcast. It got pretty heated and things escalated, in my opinion. And it all started out when Brendan Schaub called him out for lying about how many street fights he had been in. And this next thing doesn't help Bryan Callen at all because he has to be the softest person when it comes to dealing with Brendan Schaub. He doesn't call him out. He doesn't make fun of him. And when he does, Brendan Schaub gets visibly upset. So the fact that Bryan Callen was willing to take it this far to defend his credibility as a tough guy on the streets says a lot about him, which if you look at it from Joe Rogan's perspective and you are in a room with an actual MMA fighter that Brendan Schaub was, and then yourself or Joe Rogan being in shape and an actual fighter, it could be frustrating watching or hearing your actor friend talk about how tough he is to millions and millions of people on air. So I could see that also being the case.
And because you brought me into comedy, and so when that was the only interaction I would see. I'm like, oh, that's how you have to act with these guys. It's not I'll get silly, especially if I know you with you, but if I don't know you, I'm a little more reserved,
Yeah.
or I'll just talk to you.
Sure.
But I thought it was like that way, and then I remember I came to the comedy store and you guys were doing your thing, and I was jumping into it, and Roman's like, hey, come here. He's like, you're like me, man. He's like, you don't have to do that. He's like, you don't have to entertain that stupid, silly all the time. He's like, that's not you. I was like, really? He's like, no.
Yeah.
He's like, you're like me. I was like, oh.
Yeah.
Something else I found very interesting was how they said that Joe Rogan was not comfortable being silly, which I could see that being the case. But if you notice, Brendan Schaub had to throw in there that Joe Rogan told him that they were both alike because they didn't need to do that stuff, that silly stuff. But take a look at this.
She's the best basketball player on earth with tits.
Well, okay, yeah, but
You see what I did there?
yeah, I was gonna say,
You didn't let me finish.
yeah. You don't let that oops play, bro. There you go.
There you go. There you go. One for the good guys.
Obviously, I'm just kidding, but I do think it was pretty interesting that Bryan Callen decided to bring up that video now, 7 years later. And I wonder what happened to that guy that posted that video. I wonder what he thinks about Brendan Schaub now, because on the description of the video, he said that Brendan Schaub was hilarious and was bashing on Bryan Callen. But let me know what you think in the comments below. What do you think caused Bryan Callen to do this? Did he really just see the video, or is it that he had it in the back of his head and just had to bring it up now? I do wonder what the situation is, but leave a like, subscribe to the channel. We are trying to get to 20,000 subscribers, and we're getting closer and closer. Again, let me know what you think in the comments below. Dislike if you didn't like the video, but that is all we have for today. See ya.